Namo Sakyamuni Namo Sakyamuni Buddha Namo Sakyamuni Buddha.
Thank you very much, Safo. We're very happy tonight that we have our guest lead for tonight's study. She is from Fokongsan Institute of Humanistic Buddhism. So please welcome Zhetong Pastor.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to Venerable Yohui and all our members tonight. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to kind of, I wouldn't say lead, but to join this book study club. Thank you very much. So I understand that today the article that we are going to look at is giving of fearlessness. Has everyone read the article?
Supposedly. Sometimes we also start with reading the article, but it's up to you.
Sure. I think we can do that. We can refresh our memories because it's also a very short article. I can share my screen and we can take a look.
Okay.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. There.
Okay. So how do you usually do this? Do a volunteer?
Yeah, we volunteer to read. We just pass among ourselves.
Sure.
Okay, I'll start it. We'll read about 2 paragraphs, then we'll pass to someone else. Okay, giving of fearlessness. Generosity is the first step of Buddhist cultivation. Do not think that generosity is only limited to monetary donation. If one could give a word of consolation, an encouraging smile, a nod of approval, or a gesture of acknowledgement that brings others joy, one is practicing generosity. Buddhist sutras listed 3 kinds of generosity: the giving of wealth, the giving of dharma, and the giving of fearlessness. Hence, there is a wide range of generosity. Apart from the giving of wealth, the giving of material objects, time, service, and even one's intentions are also generosity. So let's pass to positive mind.
Yes. No. The giving of the giving. Oh, okay, po. The giving of dharma is as important, for the offering of dharma excels all offerings. Material donations can be used up quickly. Only the giving of the Buddha Dharma could allow us to enrich ourselves and seek spiritual and mental transcendence for one and even many lifetimes. In other words, the greatest giving is when a word or a sentence of the Dharma inspires faith in others. Furthermore, there is also the Buddhist teaching of the giving of fearlessness, which is not as widely discussed. Many Buddhist leaders only seek devotees to donate money for the building of temples, Buddha statues, or printing of sutras. At most, these acts provide aid to those in need, which is why they are widely encouraged. However, generosity is not limited to the giving of wealth. The giving of manpower, kind words, and good intentions also bring great merit. Nevertheless, while the giving of Dharma may be the greatest, the giving of fearlessness still is considered the most supreme.
Call someone else.
Okay. Francis, 안녕.
Ishan. The giving of fearlessness means bringing stability, and safety to society so people can enjoy peace and joy. Moreover, to ensure that there is no danger, no fear, no suppression, and no injustice means fearlessness is being given to all beings. Most sentient beings in this world can be very timid. For example, some people are afraid of poverty, some are afraid of being bullied, some are afraid of being busy or oppressed. Furthermore, some are fearful of the police, the military, violence, and injustice. Therefore, it depends on the moral courage of Dharma propagators to stand up and give sentient beings the power of fearlessness.
Who do you call?
Daryl.
Good evening. To have moral na po, no?
Yes.
To have moral courage is to be courageous and stand up for justice. Just like a chivalric person who extends a helping hand whenever it is needed. If Buddhists could ease the fear of the disadvantaged or vulnerable in society, if devotees could recognize temples as their place of refuge and monastics are protectors like their parents or teachers, if Buddhists could truly offer the gift of fearlessness, then Buddhism will surely prosper.
Thank you everyone for your excellent reading. Let's get into today's discussion. I have prepared a few questions. So here it is. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint slides?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the first question for you. For the first part, we will focus on what we just read simply from the article. So we can have just talk about what we understand from the text itself. So which practice is the first step of Buddhist cultivation? And feel free to raise your hand or just speak up.
Generosity, Shafu.
Yes, exactly. So as said in the first part of our article, generosity is the first step of Buddhist cultivation. Now, the second question is, what are the three kinds of generosity? The three kinds of generosity are mentioned in the article as well.
Giving of material wealth,
Mhm.
giving of the Dharma,
Yes.
and giving of fearlessness.
Excellent, very good. So these are the three kinds of generosity, and you can see them being repeated in a lot of articles or even the Buddhist sutras. So let's look at question 3. What other ways can we practice generosity? So just now we talked about the 3 ways, which is to give material wealth, or to give Dharma, or to give fearlessness. Venerable Master also mentioned some others way that we can practice generosity.
Kind words. Giving of
Kind words. Very good. Giving others kind words.
Giving your time and service and even your intentions.
Very good. Giving our time, in helping others. These are also a form of giving. Any other answers? Well, if we look back at, if we look back at the article here, we can also see, for example, if one could give a word of consolation, an encouraging smile, a nod of approval, a gesture of acknowledgement, anything that can bring others joy, these are also considered as the practice of generosity. Now for the next question, question 4, what is the giving of wealth? Just off the top of your head. What is the giving of wealth?
Material donation.
Very good. Material
Donation.
donation. Yes. For example, clothes, for example, first aid kit or food. Actually, these are all
Medicine.
considered the giving of wealth. And of course, monetary donation are also considered as giving of wealth. What about the giving of dharma?
A sentence or a verse from the
Exactly.
Buddhist teachings.
Yes, an encouraging sentence from the Dharma or a phrase or any teachings of the Dharma. These are all considered as the giving of Dharma. Now, interestingly, there are two kinds of giving of Dharma. If one were to impart a skill to someone, this can also be considered as a giving of Dharma. So for example, if someone were to teach cooking to a person who cannot cook as a way to help him to attain a means of living, this is also considered the giving of Dharma because we're giving them a livelihood as well. And for question 6, what is the giving of fearlessness?
Give people confidence.
Give people confidence. Yes. What
Bring
did
stability and safety to the society so that people who lives in it would be fearless.
Very good. Yes, this is what Venerable Master mentioned in the article, bringing stability and security and safety to the people around us. This is indeed a giving of fearlessness. Anyone else would like to share? What is the giving of fearlessness? Okay. So I think we pretty much understood the text. It's quite short and it starts with the kinds of givings that we can practice. But the most important kind of giving out of all of the givings that we can think of in Buddhism is actually fearlessness. Now we can continue, have a thought about that. So the last question I have here is, what kind of fears do sentient beings experience? This is mentioned in the latter part of the article.
Some of the sentient beings,
Poverty, afraid of bullying, violence. Some are afraid of being oppressed.
Yes, being oppressed, violence, and I think I hear poverty.
Poverty, yeah.
Yes, indeed. These are the kinds of fear that a lot of people have experienced or is experiencing right now.
Fear of the pandemic.
The fear of the pandemic, yes, indeed.
That's
That
true.
is, yes, that's very true. And I understand that the Philippines had just experienced a great typhoon. That is also, that can also be a kind of fear that we experience. So we do experience a lot of fears. Okay. Now let's come to the second part of our discussion. So after the first part of discussion, we discussed what we have just read in the article. In the second part now, we can contemplate on what we've just read and discussed. So the first question I have for you is generosity an important Buddhist practice? It's a yes or no question, or maybe.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Very
So
important.
we all agree it's very important. Okay,
Yes.
that's a consensus. Now, why is it important? Now it's for you to tell me why is it important.
I think, Shafu, it's important because with generosity, we can cultivate good affinities with others. And with that good affinity, it translates, it gives you the gateway to be able to also discuss Dharma, to learn from each other. So generosity is like a starting point.
Mm.
Yes, I totally agree. Thank you.
Because it's the first step of Buddhist practice.
Very good. Yes, that's what
Oh,
it said in
sure.
the article. Yes, indeed.
Yes, it's part of the six paramita.
Yeah.
First,
Mhm.
is the first in the six paramitas. 布施, generosity,
Share.
giving.
Yes, yes, that's very true.
Generosity
Yes.
is considered as the antidote to greed.
Oh, very good. That was an answer that I want to hear. Very good. So yes, indeed, generosity. If we think of ourselves as a Buddhist practitioner, so one of the main concerns for Buddhist practitioner is to eliminate our afflictions. So where do our afflictions comes from?
From
The
our
mind,
ego, from
From
our
attachment.
ego. Yeah.
Attachment.
yes. Attachment, very good. Yes,
And
all of these are where our afflictions comes from. And also in Buddhist terms, we say it comes from our greed, hatred, and ignorance. Now, the Buddha not only tell us the unwholesome experiences that we might have, he also tell us how we can counter these unwholesome experiences. Because of course, when we are afflicted, when we have troubles, we do not feel good, whether it's physically or mentally. So for the problem of greed or for the unwholesomeness that comes in the form of greed, generosity is the remedy. So thank you. Is there any other answers about why is generosity so important in Buddhism?
Because you benefit others.
Indeed, generosity is not just about ourselves. Of course, it's about benefiting others. And I think just as, forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but Ube, is it okay to call you? Okay, Ube.
Yes, correct. That's
So
correct.
as you have
Shafu.
said, it's about forming good affinities with others. And as bodhisattvas, for a bodhisattva, both benefiting ourselves and others is one of the most important practice. So thank you very much for everyone's reply. All of them are exactly why we should practice generosity, or why generosity is such an important practice in Buddhism. And I think not just Buddhism, I think in life generally in life, being generous is a virtue that everyone looks up to. So we always comment others like, he's a very generous person, or she's a very generous person. So this is a compliment as well. So question 3, do you have the experience of being the recipient of an act of generosity? And would anyone like to share your experience?
Okay, I'll share a bit, Sapo. As somebody who in the past, as someone who haven't encountered the teachings of generosity in Buddhism, we do try to practice generosity, but sometimes if we feel that the thing that we are giving is have little value, then we become hesitant. We would think twice. Oh, should I give this? Is this good enough? Is this worthy of anything? But I noticed that especially the masters, they give out anything, whether big or small, to anyone. So for example, some would give a small trinket or some souvenirs, and I noticed that this is in Buddhism, we practice generosity not based on the value of the object. It's just the practice of generosity itself. So regardless of the value of the object. So this helps us to practice generosity itself. We don't need to wait that we have something that is of bigger value in order to practice generosity. So this kind of impression that I gained from Buddhism and the masters allows us to practice generosity more often.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Indeed, when we think of giving other people something, no matter if it is an object or even a word or a hug or a smile, don't worry about how much they value or how much they cost, but what is our intention? So I'm giving this because I think that person really need it, because I wholeheartedly feel that this is the right thing for them. So no matter big or small, what is most important in the end is our intention. So thank you so much, Erwin, for your sharing. Do anyone else have a story about how you have received some and from an act of
Meron
generosity?
akong Zoom. Sandali lang. Meron akong Zoom. Okay? Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.
For me, Shafu, the act of generosity, I've received this in all the forms stated earlier. The giving of wealth from my parents, the giving of dharma from the masters and from my mother and from the friends in this group, and the giving of fearlessness from friends and family. Every time that, let's say, I am worried, so the giving of fearlessness is also often gifted to me, and I am very thankful for that. And to add on to Erwin's earlier statement on the value, I think the value is not based on us, the giver, but more on the recipient, because when it is most needed by them, even if, as you've said, Shefu, if it's just a smile or just a word of encouragement, the value is not in the amount, in the monetary value, but more on the impact of that generosity to the recipient. So we can always practice generosity when, as you've said, the intention is there to give the other that comfort or that joy.
Thank you so much. That is very beautifully expressed. Yes, indeed. We may perhaps sometimes we don't really come to realize, but actually there are so many people around us who has been very generous with us. For example, our parents, our family members, friends, colleagues, anyone. These are only the people, but what about this, even our earth? Our earth has been very, very generous to us, providing us with sunshine, oxygen, water, and land so that we can survive here very peacefully and happily. So we are indeed in debt in a way to a lot of people and to a lot of phenomena around us that enable us to continue our life. So indeed, we have a lot to be grateful for. And by reflecting this, I think generosity, this act of generosity or this idea of generosity grows and become bigger and bigger. So what about, let's change the side a little bit. Have you ever did an act of generosity? Have you ever shared something with someone? Would anyone like to share your experience?
Okay, I will share. Before I came here, when I was in the States, every morning I go to the park, and every time when I come across anybody, you know, I just greet them good morning and give them a smile. And it's just brighten the days for everybody.
Yes, I agree. It's very pleasant to have someone smile at you, especially when you least expect it, or especially when you feel down or sad. And I think it's a very beautiful thing to greet people with a smile. Or in Buddhist temples, we greet people with a joint palms and we say 吉祥 or 阿弥陀佛 as a way of saying how do you do. So this is indeed a very beautiful practice. Thank you, Marlene. Can I have one more volunteer to share?
I would like to add to what Auntie Marlene mentioned. Apart from the gestures that we have, that we show, apart from the smiles and to all, hello, good morning. Uh, the, the simple wave, the simple eye contact that we get to, the moment, for example, especially this Christmas holiday. It's been few months since we've seen our relatives. So the moment that we saw each other, for example, the hug, the wave of our hands, like hello, the eye contact that we get to, it feels like, okay, I already know what to expect. I think you have a lot of stories to share. I think, oh, you grow taller, your hair becomes longer, something like that. So those kinds of little details, little gesture, and also, but it really adds. So I think that is, mm,
Okay.
Sorry, Daryl, would you like to
yes.
continue?
So that those little details, that like what Auntie Marlene said, like saying hi in the park. So every morning, it gives joy to other people. It gives uh it somehow it lightens their mood for the day. So really great to share joy and to give other people's happiness.
That's very true, especially now when a lot of people might feel very burdened by not just COVID, but also by maybe family or their work. Simply, sometimes, just a smile it might not resolve their problems, but it might just bring that little light of hope and joy, even for a very fleeting moment. I think we can all strive to do that. A little bit more about generosity. I would like to share a story. It happened during the Buddha's time. So the Buddha has one of his major disciple is called Mahakashyapa. So some of you might have heard him. So Mahakashyapa is a very, very interesting character. He's someone who practiced austerities. So which means that he would sleep in the cemeteries. He would just wear very you know, very minimalistic lifestyle. And sometimes he would just meditate, and then did very, very harsh practice, despite, you know, whatever the weather might be it hot, be it cold, be it full of mosquitoes. He would just sit, you know, in a grave, and then just meditate, and then so this kind of practice is called austerities. Now he has a very interesting act, that is, during the Buddha's time, all of the monks, all of the monastics, they would have to go on alms round. So they would go from home to home, and then they would beg for food, and once in a day, and with the food that they have, they would share it with the other monastics in the temple, and then they would eat just one meal a day. So this Mahakashyapa figure, what he does is he would go to all the poor places. So he wouldn't go to the rich people, because rich people, even though they might offer better food, but he would always go to the poor people. So one day he saw this very, very old lady, and she's not just very old, but she's also very sick, and she's she's very, very poor. She barely has any clothes. She has no food, nothing. And so Mahakashyapa approached this poor lady and said, "Would you like to give me something for my because I am alms begging?" And the old lady said, "But I don't have anything. I don't even have food for myself." And Mahakashyapa said, "Oh, you can try. You can try and see what you've got, and you can give it to me. And it's because that in your past life you haven't give anything, that in this life you experience the karma of being very poor." And the lady said, she looked around her, in her very poor house, and then she finally found some rice water that was 3 days old, very smelly, but she said to Mahakashyapa, "This is all that I've got, this smelly rice water. You wouldn't accept it, even though you are such a great and kind monastic." And Mahakashyapa said, "Of course I will." And he to prove it to the lady, he took the rice water and drank it all in front of her. And after this lady passed away, she was reborn in one of the heavenly realms because of her great merit in offering to not just this great monastic, but also from her sincerity. And I think from this story, we can look at several different things. First of all, there are many reasons why the Buddha encouraged the practice of generosity. One of them is that the practice of generosity, of course, it will help us to accumulate good merits. Now, when we have good merits, of course, it will help us in our next life. And one of the guarantee is that if we practice generosity sincerely, one will be guaranteed to be reborn as a human, or even as a heavenly being, just as the old lady did in the story. And of course, another one is that the practice of generosity, just now as we mentioned, it is a way for us to remedy our greed. Now, greed sometimes it doesn't really mean wanting a lot. Sometimes it also means that we find it very, very difficult to let go. For example, maybe I find it very difficult to share my food with someone else because they are my food. They are not yours. So I find it difficult to share them. Just little acts like this show us that maybe we do have some little attachment here and there. Doesn't really have to be something very big, for example, like money. It doesn't even have to be that. just little things. For example, perhaps my family members say, "Do you have time to take me to the doctor today?" And I say, "No, I don't have time. I'm unwilling to share my time with other people." So by practicing generosity, it will help us to slowly lessen some of these attachment that we might not even know. So this is why the practice of generosity is so important and much encouraged by the Buddha. Now I think let's turn back to today's topic, which is the giving of fearlessness. Now, of course, we heard a lot about the giving of material wealth, and um, in a way that is the most easily done because it is not it is something external to us. In a way, it's kind of external. For example, food, money, clothes, these are quite external, so it's a little bit easier to practice generosity through giving material objects. And of course, Dharma, in order for us to really share the Dharma, first we need to receive it. We need to think it through. We need to read a lot of books and practice before perhaps we feel a little bit more comfortable about talking the Dharma or sharing some Dharma advice. But fearlessness doesn't seem to be very, it seems a little bit abstract. So let's first talk about what fears have we experienced in life. Maybe this will help us a little bit on understanding how to give fearlessness. For me, for example, I am terrified of snakes ever since I was a very small child. I am so terrified that I couldn't even look at pictures with snakes on it. And I'm very, very terrified. Don't do that, Daryl. It's very scary. And in Guangshan here in Taiwan, we actually do have snakes around this area. So always I'm kind of like crossing my fingers when I walk, and then I chant, "Oh, Omitofo, Omitofo." don't let the snakes come near me. So this is one of my greatest fear, actually. I'm not sure about you. Do you have any fears? Anyone can share?
For me,
Yes.
Shifu, my greatest fear amongst all the fears is being alone. I prefer to have company with me.
Yes. I think this is a fear that a lot of people share, because in a way, humans, we are very, we do better in communities. We do better in families with people that we love. So even Venerable Master Xing, he always says, "I live among multitude," and he never want to be in a place alone. He wants to be with people, to reach out to people. And I think we all share that. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else?
People. Okay, I want to share two fears. First fear, I have this fear of not finishing my tasks for a day. It's like if I'm given a set of tasks, I want to finish it immediately. So if I cannot finish it ASAP, then that makes me anxious a lot. And the second fear is fear of going hungry. So I am very fearful that, oh my gosh, what's my next meal gonna be? What's gonna be my food for the next meal, like 3 times a day? So I'm always thinking, like, okay, what will I eat for the next meal? Should I prepare it? Should I order it? So a lot of those processes, should I buy it or something? It makes me confused. And these fears are making me anxious. But those are just few of my fears because I've got lots of them. Yeah, Shifu.
Thank you so much for your sharing. Fears comes in different forms, and there's no one is like no fears are how do I put it? No fears are the less or second rate, or no fears are silly, because fear is very, very real for every different person. So thank you so much for your sharing. Anyone else would like to share some of the fears that you might have?
Me, I fear getting sick and getting very ill to the point of being bedridden, because I don't want to make other people suffer because of me if I'm bedridden. So that's my fear.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. Yes, the fear of sickness and of trying, hoping that we won't be a burden. I think that's what everyone will experience, no matter now or later as we get older, because old age is indeed
Real.
one of the paths that we have to take. Everyone will have to take. So indeed, that is a very a real and fear. Thank you so much for your sharing.
I used to have fears of failure, but not anymore.
What helps you overcome this fear?
Well, it's the Dharma, because I understand about causes and conditions. So some of the things I can control, So I understand that. So I just do my best and, and just go with the flow, follow the circumstances.
Thank you, Marlene. Yes. So that brings me to my next question. How did you manage your fear? So Marlene say she overcome her fear through the Dharma by understanding causes and conditions. So indeed, that is one way that we can overcome our fears. I think for us to overcome it, first we have to understand it and face it. So going back to my fear of snakes, I'm actually a little bit better now. At least I used to say that if I ever meet a snake, I would just don't worry about me, because I would just faint right away. So, but now I can, walk around. I actually once saw a snake on the road, and I just walk around and I say, oh, Omitofo, Omitofo, Omitofo. And then I say, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. I won't bother you. I respect you. And let's part on good terms. And thankfully, we did part on good terms. And then I thought to myself, as a Buddhist, isn't it one of our purpose to liberate all sentient beings? And even though snakes are very scary, they are animals and they are sentient beings. So how can I be fearful of them and hate them even? If I have these negative feelings, I would never ever form a good affinity with the snakes. So I'm still trying to form good affinities with snakes. Let's see how long I get there. But slowly and slowly, I convinced myself not to be afraid, and I convinced myself, as Marlene said, I try to understand the situation with Dharma, and that really did help me overcome my fear. Yeah, at least now I didn't scream and faint when I see a snake. Does anyone else have you ever overcome a fear before? It can be, it can be a little fear, it can be a big fear, it can be a very serious fear. Yes, Daryl.
Like you, Venerable Jirtong, I am also afraid of snakes. I had a very terrible, very traumatic experience when I was a 4-year-old. Um, but like also like what I did to manage my fear is, apart from realizing the Dharma, is that I research. The more I'm afraid of snakes. The more I watch videos in YouTube, in Facebook, I get to search what are the different kinds of snakes, where do they, excuse me, where do they live, and then that's how I understood that snakes are really part of the food chain. Number one, snakes are also very essential not only to the, oh yes, to the animal kingdom, but it's really, if we don't imagine, if we don't have snakes, there are so many rats, there are so many um pests that would really grow, and that's part of the food chain. um so that is how I manage my fear of snakes. Really, like what some philosophers say, face your fear. You should not run away with your fear, you should face it. So that's how I manage my fear. The second one, sorry, the second sharing, um like Auntie Marlene, I used to be afraid of not of losing connections. I'm a Leo person. I am the my classmates in Guangming College, my teachers know that I really want attention and I really want more connections. So I used to be afraid of losing those connections, losing my loved ones. But after graduating in Guangming College, after hearing stories from Venerable Miao Jing, from Venerable Miao Guang, Yo Tsai, Venerable Tzu Hui, Venerable Master Shingan, I get to appreciate, I get to learn, and I also get to realize that I should not um, hold on to notion, onto that thinking that oh, I will lose someone. My world will stop moving. So I get to realize that I am not Daryl. I am just a form. I am reborn after few few lifetimes. So something like that. So I get to realize that I should not hold on to uh, having that connection or holding on that connection. I have to learn to let go. So those two fears, how I manage, face my fear, research about snakes, and then really it's a matter of reflection in a way, and yeah, contemplation with the help of the Dharma. Thank you, Omitofo.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. You have given us very good points. No matter what our fears, what form it takes, it can be, a physical form like an animal. It can be a mental form like fear of failure or fear of um, not being as good as we think that we should be. All of this fear, no matter what form, I think the first step to approach is to understand them, and like Daryl say, in a way to do research, to contemplate them, face our fears, because when we understand where this fear comes from, for example, did it come from my perhaps my attachment, or perhaps my greed, or whatever reasons that give rise to this fear. Once we get it, it is easier for us to find a solution to it. So just now, positive mind, you raised your hand.
Yes,
Yes,
po.
please.
Actually, okay, I will talk about a different fear this time. So for 2 years, I was so afraid of COVID. I was so afraid of coronavirus. Well, I am still afraid. But right now that I got it, um, I feel that, okay, this is like a battle. And I think that with the right information and proper nutrition and talking with the right people, the not so stressful people, the people who will make me smile, and the people who will motivate me to, to be stronger, I think I can manage my fear of COVID already. And for some, because some people are shy really to share that they are positive. But I even posted it in social media because I was anxious. Yeah. Um, I'm so happy because even though I live alone right now, I am isolated. I feel the connection with other people. Like they would send me things that I would need. They would check on me every now and then. I feel that I'm not alone. And I know that some of my friends also got positive. Yeah, we don't necessarily live in the same place or the same area. We haven't met each other for a time already. But knowing that this is like a shared experience with a lot of people now, brings me to, you know, realize that I shouldn't fear it. Well, in fact, everyone, we just have to be extra careful. If we haven't gotten it yet, then we have to take care, yeah, of ourselves and of other people. Also, since I got it already, I just have to, like what Daryl did, I did a lot of research. I always watch YouTube, a lot of news, like what vitamin supplements to use, what medicine, or what are the different signs and symptoms that I might experience, or the duration of the illness or something. So by getting the right information, I will not face COVID blindly. I will face it with some weapons also. I'm just fortunate because as of now, because the symptoms started like January 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's been 4 days already. My my fever is going up and down, but most of the time it's normal. So it's 36 point something. So just right now, I'm just so thankful because I'm still able to join this session also and you know share my experience. As of now, I'm still positive. So spread positivity. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But we have to be extra careful and we have to have the right information. Yeah, we cannot guess through COVID or anything else, any disease. Yeah, that's it, Shifu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think what you remind me of is the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. Because Noble Eightfold Path begins with right view. And from right view, that means we need to have the correct understanding of our situation. For example, for positive mind, should I just call you positive mind? Or
Yeah.
what
Actually, my
do you
real
prefer?
name is Amiel.
Amiel? Did I
Yes.
pronounce it correctly?
Yes, this one.
Okay, should
Amiel.
I call you Amel?
Yeah, Shifu.
Okay, thank you. Um, for example, like Amel, you just said to have right view of your situation. Now the inevitable has happened. You got COVID, so we need to have right understanding. Of course, it's not easy to accept the fact, but now that we have it, what kind of mindset do we want to take? So of course you took the positive mindset and you begin to have right action. Right action, that means you do your proper research, you follow medical advice, you follow professional advice, and you take the right steps in precaution, in sharing your news, so that and also to keep yourselves self isolated for the safety of everyone, and of course you follow medical advice too for your quick recovery. And of course with your positive mindset, you are doing all of this with right mindfulness. So thank you so much for your sharing, because I truly see how you put the Noble Eightfold Path into practice. And this is indeed how we can face and resolve our fear with right view and right understanding, right action, and right mindfulness. Just armed with this, as you say, armed with these weapons, I'm sure that all fears can be overcome. And I really do hope that you will have a speedy recovery. Please take care.
Thank you,
uh,
Shifu.
Thank you so much for everyone's sharing. um I think I will. Does anyone else would like to have a last sharing before I move on to my next question? And anyone is welcome. Oh, okay, then I will move on to my next question, and feel free to jump in whenever you have something to share. So my next question is, who is the greatest giver of fearlessness?
Is it Kuan Yin, Bodhisattva?
Indeed, very good. Thank you. Yes, Avalokitesvara. Yes, Emil, just right behind you. Guan Yin Bodhisattva is known as the greatest giver of fearlessness, and of course, the Buddha himself is also the greatest giver of fearlessness. So, for example, you would see. Oopsie, hang on a second. Let me just here. Okay. So here you see the picture of the Buddha. He has his right hand hold up in his palm showing. So this is the mudra, or the hand gesture of fearlessness. So there is a very famous story of the Buddha on how he was nearly attacked by a drunk elephant. So there was this one person called Devadatta who wished very much to hurt and even kill the Buddha. So he fed some alcohol to an elephant, and of course the elephant was drunk and became very, very angry. And the bad guy sent the elephant down to charge the Buddha. And so when the Buddha saw this elephant, this angry, drunk, crazy elephant coming towards him, he raised his palm and then calmed down the elephant. Because even the elephant himself, he is full of fear. He doesn't know what's happening to him, obviously, because elephant doesn't drink wine. He doesn't know what's happening to him. He has all of this anger and pain. And with his kindness and compassion, the Buddha stopped and calmed down the drunk elephant. So when whenever you see a Buddha statue and you see that he has his palm hold up, you know that this is a sign of fearlessness. And so when we talk about giving fearlessness, sometimes it can be in a way quite abstract. How can we give other fearlessness? So what we can do is we can learn from perhaps both from the Buddha and from Avalokitesvara or Guan Yin Bodhisattva. We can learn from them. So have you, except for the story that I have shared, in the Universal Gate chapter, which you can find in the Lotus Sutra, there is this section that says, "This is why all of you should single-mindedly make offerings to Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. For it is the great Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva who can bestow fearlessness in the midst of terror and dire circumstances. This is why everyone in the Saha world calls him the bestower of fearlessness." Now, I put this passage here is because sometimes there are some fears that we find it very difficult to overcome. For example, my fear of snakes, I can only overcome my fear when I chant the Buddha or the Bodhisattva name. So sometimes we need this a little bit extra help. We need help from the Buddha, from the Bodhisattva, to help us overcome some of our fears that might not be so easily resolved. So just now, all of you very kindly share a lot of your fears. For example, and fear of animals, fear of not being good enough, or fear of old age, and fear of sickness. And in this Universal Gate Sutra, in this Universal Gate chapter, you will see examples of many, many different kinds of fears. That fears that comes from the external world, that takes form of again animals or bad people like thieves and robbers, and also it comes from our internal fears that might stem from greed, hatred, and ignorance. What do we do with all of these external and internal fears? Of course, we can read the sutras, we can read books by Venerable Master, or any Buddhist books, or any Buddha books that talks about the teaching of the Buddha, or listen to any classes. Of course, these are all ways for us to build our right view and right understanding. But sometimes when we find ourselves alone, or when we find ourselves, cooking or driving a car, or maybe you just want a little bit of a quiet time, to connect to your spiritual self, chanting the Buddha or the Bodhisattva names. This is also one of the ways that can help us to ease our fear. And by chanting and thinking and contemplating about the Buddha and Bodhisattva, we will also learn from them. We will learn from their kindness. We will learn from their compassion. And in turn, we can also be the bestower of fearlessness to the people around us. So by learning from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we resolve our fears, and we also ease other people. I still have a little bit of time. I'm going to share another story. This is also happened in the Buddha's time. So one day, the Buddha and another of his disciple, whose name is Ananda. So one day, the Buddha and Ananda are walking on the road, and the sun was positioned in such a way that their shadow fell to the ground. So they were walking in under the sun. And then down came a little bird, and then the little bird goes hop, hop, hop. And this little bird felt that, oh, it's such a hot day. I want to find a shade. And there are no trees around. There are only two humans with their shadows. So the little bird hop, 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 and stood under Ananda's shadow. But suddenly the bird just shook himself and then flew away. And the bird was clearly frightened. And then the bird continued to find another shade. And then he found, oh, there's another shadow. It's the shadow of the Buddha. And then the bird sat under the shadow of the Buddha. And then he stood there and was very, very happy. And the bird was not afraid. So Ananda asked the Buddha, why is the little bird afraid of me when I am a monastic and I have no harm for this little bird? And why is the bird not afraid of you? And the Buddha talks about, it's because I have upheld precepts very diligently for kalpas and kalpas. That's why, because when I uphold precept, I bear no ill will towards any sentient beings. And since that I have perfected my practice of upholding precept, of course, the little bird will have no fear of me. So perhaps we can think of what are the ways that we can practice fearlessness. So that brings me to my next question, and also my last question. How can I give other fearlessness? I think when we think of our own fear, usually our own fear comes, one of the reasons that we have fear is we are afraid of getting hurt. So I'm afraid of snakes because I'm afraid that the snakes will hurt me. So perhaps some people, if I may use your example, Marlene, perhaps you are afraid of failure because you are afraid of how people look at you and what are their judgment of you, if I may use this example. And if we think of our fears, it's a lot of times it's because we are afraid of being hurt. Now, if we think of others, then we can also we understand that, hey, perhaps other people are also afraid of being hurt. So in order for me to give them fearlessness, in order for me to show them kindness and compassion, then my intention has to be, I won't hurt you. So this is how so this is one of the ways that we can practice, is that my intention towards any people or any animal is, I don't want to hurt you. In fact, I want all the best for you. I want that you will feel good and happy and healthy all the time. And by upholding the 5 precepts, because the 5 precepts basically to boil down the precepts, which is to not violate others or to not harm or injure other people. If we uphold the 5 precepts, then naturally we will not give other people or other beings a sense of fear, because we have no we don't want to hurt them. So this is one of the ways that we can start with the practice of fearlessness. So what about can I hear from you? What do you think or what are the steps that we can take in order to practice giving other fearlessness? Or maybe if this is too difficult, or what other steps that I can take in practicing generosity?
I think it is like standing on the other side. I mean, feeling what the other person is feeling, standing on her side, the empathy. So just like when I encountered, pains before, so I can understand how people suffer when they are in pain. So I find ways in how to, alleviate their pains and give them fearlessness.
Thank you very much, Luisa. Yes, to stand in other people's shoe, to understand what other people are going through, to be empathetic. It's a great way for us to start the practice of giving and of giving other fearlessness. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share?
Jefu, I have a question instead of an answer.
Okay.
My question is because if the Buddha taught that we should not even rely on him, but we have to rely on ourselves and the Dharma, then is it also correct to understand that the greatest giver of fearlessness to us is ourselves?
I guess yes, we can think of it that way, because the Buddha, what the Buddha gave us was the teachings, the method, the way of practice. And it is entirely up to us whether if we want to walk the walk, right? Or if we want to take up the practice. So that is entirely up to us. So in the end, only we can pick ourselves out of the trouble. Only we can resolve our own fears and our own issues. But before we are able to reach that that state or that level, we need a lot of help along the way. So that's why we turn to the Buddha's teachings. We turn to the sutras for us to find more ways.
Thank you, Shefu.
Thank you. Well, we do still have some time. I would really love to hear anything from you, or if you have any questions, I will try my best to answer it as well.
Venerable Lillian here.
Hi. Oh, hi, Lillian. Good to see you.
Sorry, I was late because I came back late. Okay, Venerable, I would just want to answer to this question. How can I give others fearlessness? This experience happened last year during the first phase of COVID in Malaysia. I received a call from the welfare department of the hospital to ask me to accompany a cancer patient, to the hospital. In fact, at that time, it was like total lockdown because the pandemic was quite fierce at that time. And the welfare department know that I am from a Buddhist organization. So it was difficult for me to turn down that I am unable to accompany the patient there. So I answered yes, okay, I will accompany her. But that night I couldn't sleep. The next day of the appointment, I could not sleep. So early morning when I woke up, I used to recite my prayers, the Universal Gate Sutra, the Pullman Pin. And that kind of gave me some courage that we as a volunteer, we need to have that kind of courage to face this kind of adversities, especially when a person is looking up to us for support. So in the end, I went with her, and I'm glad I did that because in the end, I feel that I have fulfilled myself as a Buddhist and also as a responsible person to society also. Because when we declare ourselves as a BLIA member, we are supposed to be at the forefront in helping sentient beings, and also to give others support and also confidence. I remember when I was driving all the way there, all I think of was Master's 3 goods and the 4 gifts. I would be very ashamed of myself if I have declined that. I had thought of that. And I did not inform my husband that I was going to the hospital to accompany the patient, because he would definitely would not allow me to go. In the end, I'm glad that I have done that. And that was in a way like giving that kind of fearlessness to the other patient. I did not mention anything to her that I have this kind of concerns or fear. I just go there briefly to accompany her.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lillian. I think you are really very brave, and you have really put the Bodhisattva idea into practice. To put yourself out there when you know it's so dangerous, but you saw that that patient actually needed more help from you, and your support, just by driving the patient to the hospital itself, it's already a great support and a great giving of fearlessness. Because even we as healthy people, we get so afraid of the COVID situation. What more for a cancer patient, especially that that person has to go in the hospital, and when the body is the immune system must be very low for the cancer patient. So that fear for this patient must be double or even triple than our fear. So I applaud you. I really applaud you, Lillian. Thank you so much for sharing. And anyone else would like to share? I think we have 10 more minutes before we say our dedication of merits. No? Okay. I think we can spend a little bit time to go over what we talked over today. So today, our article is giving of fearlessness. And from this article, we understand that there are many ways that we can practice generosity. We can practice generosity not just by giving of wealth or giving of dharma, and of course giving of fearlessness. We also talk about how we can practice giving by just a smile, a hug, and encouraging eye contact, all of these that might seem insignificant, but actually they are all simple practice of generosity that we can do every single day whenever we meet people. So generosity is, again, it's not only about donating money, but also giving your time, giving your attention, your attention and intention to the people around us. These can all be considered as practices of generosity. And next we talk about how can we understand giving of fearlessness, by first understanding that, hey, all of us, we all have fears. Everyone's fear is very real to that person, and there is no silly fears at all, because fear is very real for anyone. And by understanding our own fears, and by cultivating right view and right understanding towards our own fear, we can take right action and to resolve this fear. And in our practice, we are also doing it with right mindfulness. So this is, in a way, this is how we can incorporate the Noble Eightfold Path into our own practice of facing our fears. Now, when we face our fears, when we resolve our fears, we feel that we have more strength and more ability to share fearlessness, to give other people fearlessness, because we know that if I have this suffering, then other people must have it too. If I have this fear, then other people will definitely have this fear. And with this empathy, we find ourselves being able to give other people fearlessness, just like Lillian's excellent example. So in our path of practice and as a Buddhist, if we find ourselves in need of a help, we can always chant the Buddha's name or the Bodhisattva name, just to give us that extra boost, so we will not be so afraid, and so we will always stay on the right path of practice. I think that's basically what we've discussed today. Anyone else would like to say anything? Last comments?
So if none, thank you very much, Venerable Tong. Since we have a little bit of time, maybe we can take this opportunity to invite Venerable Miao Ching to say some few words.
I guess first of all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Always difficult for me to say happy over the last 3 weeks, but my saying or my greeting will be now, right? Have a great New Year. This year will always be better than last year, and today will always be better than yesterday. Thanks a lot, Zitong Fa Sư, for taking the first lead in this New Year series for our reading section. And I want to acknowledge those who are here online, especially Erwin Jisi, that have keep running the Buddhist reading sections ever since that I have known you. Very committed, very consistent, and very persistent. For the last 2 years, we have come online and get a chance to meet many more venerables. So thank you again, Zitong Fa Sư, for coming online. And this is our team. the pure Dharma protector here in the Philippines. And also, Lilian Zijie, thanks a lot for your sharing and your Bodhisattva mind that you very supportive of reading and lecture sections. I know Malaysia has also been going through very difficult times, the typhoon, the monsoon, the COVID. Philippines is just alongside with you. And I'm just found out that a few of us COVID quarantines. So I'm here prayer with you. I'm sorry that I should have known that earlier, but for the rest of us, morning and evening prayer to keep us strong in will. And we have, I'm very thankful that get to hear many solutions that we are taking every day, a bit at a time. I think one of the important topic, as Venerable Master Xing Yun has also given us the Chinese throat, be fearless. Be fearless is not being restless. So be fearless with a very settled and then having a goal. I always felt that fearless is turning on the light when we have the courage to move forward or to meet every moment or to welcome every moment of our life, that the fears will naturally or uncertainty will naturally gone away, just like turning on the light. So when we keep a positive thought, I share with you, I'm afraid of ghosts. And until I'm not afraid of darkness, but I'm afraid of ghosts. Until I learn to contemplate on the Buddha's light. So whenever I felt that the ghost is around me, or maybe in front, behind, looking at, I contemplate on Buddha's light. So I tune over to the next frequency, I suppose. Then I also learned that human beings are more fearful than ghosts. So I guess there's nothing else to be afraid of. All right, so thank you again. And for our Cebuano devotees or from the Visaya area, stay strong. Light is coming on. Yuhui Fasu got her electricity finally yesterday. Thanks a lot for saying the prayer. And in the new year, please support Yuhui Fasu. She's the only one now in that, I have to say, in that disaster affected area. With 2 buildings roof off and the rest, 4 other buildings sitting, hanging around. But at least she got the electricity back. And I was in time to run away before the electricity come back on. But great to know that Fogang people around the world are supporting of each other, sending love and care, even though it's difficult for ourselves. But we know that there are people who need it more than we do. So 谢谢 again for your love.
Thank you very much. So that ends our session for today. So we'll have the dedication of merits. I'll invite Venerable Yohui. I'll just share my screen because I can share the sound on my computer. Okay, palms join. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Venerable Tong.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's
Thank you,
take a photo.
Venerable Tom. Thank you.
Thank you,
Take a
Venerable
photo
Miaoji. Thank
first
you,
before
Venerable
we
Yafei.
go. Okay, turn on your video. 1, 2, 3. Okay, lotus flower. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chef
Thank you so
Fu.
much.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night,
night,
everyone.
everyone.
Stay
Bye.
safe.
Stay safe.
Don't go out of the house and don't go anywhere.
Oh, Emil, your background is very updated.
Yes.
Yeah, be safe.
Thank you so much, Rufo. Good night.
Good night,
Night.
everyone. Bye.